Time to get back in the practice room and for me to make sure I've explained myself properly. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Brian from Airflow Music. Welcome back to another video. This one's another Go practice session, and in this video we're going to be getting back into our daily drill set 10, which is one of the ones we've been working on lately. But before I do that, there's been a couple of questions about why it's a good idea to do some of the things in these exercises. So I'd like to address one of those before we get started. In set 10, this is the version of the stability drill where we deal with the bent notes. The static bends, where we move the fingers to the note above but maintain the pitch. The question I had was, why is it a good idea to practice bending? And there's a few different reasons, but the thing I need to remember to say out loud in these videos more often is that whether you should deal with any of these slightly more advanced techniques or not really depends on where you're at in your playing journey. It's easy for me to jump into the more advanced things because I've been playing this thing for 40 years and I let that get away from me sometimes. Depending where you're at, if you're pretty new at playing the trumpet, then, I wouldn't necessarily say that these extensive long setting exercises or worrying about things like bends are necessarily something that you need to do. By all means try it out, and if it works for you and it feels good, great. But if it seems a little bit beyond you or seems like too much complicated stuff to get to grips with, don't worry, that's absolutely fine. Play some music. You'll come back around to it at some point, particularly if you're studying with a teacher and they're working you through some things. And so, if that's you, that's great. Don't worry about this stuff. Just enjoy playing. That's the most important thing. But for those of us who are advancing and trying to take this seriously and work on it a little bit more and really get some things together, there's a couple of reasons that bending is a super useful thing to practice. The first one being that it gives you more options when you're playing different sorts of music for how to manipulate notes. Sometimes it's useful to bend a note. If you're playing something that, needs a kind of bluesy style to it or something like that, to sit and be able to play or something like that can be useful. So, being able to bend on those notes nice and freely and keep everything nice and smooth, obviously a worthwhile thing to deal with. On a more kind of purely technical level, it's a really useful exercise for taking a little bit more fine point control of your air and really getting into the slotting of the instrument a little bit and really securing your notes. Because when we bend, we're really having to be extra focused in our air to make the trumpet do something that it doesn't want to. The trumpet will do a pretty good job of correcting for you if you're not really quite on point with your notes and you're not giving it exactly the right air that it needs. So working on things like bending puts you a little bit more back in control of that because you're overriding what the trumpet wants to kind of default you to. And so if we're at the stage where we're trying to advance with our playing, then it can be a good thing to get under our belts to be a little more in control of that, because then when we really hit the slots, it makes our intonation much better, makes us able to adjust slightly if we hear something that is slightly out of tune, and also just puts us in that slot better if we're really aiming for the note and being a bit more clear with what the air is for that note as we move around the register of the trumpet. It's not compulsory by any means, but I think it's a really useful thing to work on. I hope that clears that up a little bit, or if that raises even more questions, please ask them in the comments down below and I'll try and elaborate further. But let's not worry about that stuff too much, let's get into playing it, okay? So we're doing set 10, we're going to get into exercise 1, which is our stability drill. This is our long setting exercise, which means that the mouthpiece stays on my lips throughout the entire thing. So we're going at 60 beats a minute, really focusing on playing in time. This is the version where we do the static bend. So halfway through the pattern, we move the valves to the note a half step above, but we maintain the pitch on the start pitch for that phrase. I think you've seen and heard it a couple times by this point, and we've gone through this a little bit more in other videos, but that's what we're trying to do. Not too much else to say about it, just hang with it, do what you can, and yeah, let's play exercise 1. For me at this stage, exercise 1 is coming together fairly smoothly. I'm still enjoying playing it. But along with that, I'm really sticking to this set still for the time being, because I have a little more work to do on exercise 2 before we move along. That's not to say that exercise 1, this particular one that we've just played, is perfect. Well, I mean, nothing's ever perfect, but you know, it's pretty much where I want it to be. I still have a couple of challenges with a couple of them. The E at the top of the staff, putting the first valve down and maintaining that note through the articulation is still a little troubling for me, but we're getting up to the point where we're in the register where those bends are a little bit more tricky. So it's just good to keep doing them every day, and in time I'll really get to grips with it. I've spent a little time behind the scenes doing some more extensive bending just on that combination, just to find it. It's coming along. But the thing I really need to keep working on to get under my fingers properly is exercise 2. So that's what we're going to move into. This is our motion drill with triplets followed by 16th notes, semiquavers, flexibility pattern at the start, and the 16th note or semiquaver version of the developed scale. So that's what we're going to crack into. I have been working on this even though there hasn't been a video for a few days. And so I'm ready to move the tempo up again a little bit, I think. So I'm going to do this one today at 96 beats a minute. And as I have done before, I'm maintaining the 2 bars rest as marked on the page. So if you don't have this exercise yet, you'll find the link down below to head over to the Airflow Music online store and download it. If this is all a little bit Greek to you, the links for all of these daily drill sets are down there too. So, you know, if you go and click the link, the first video we address that set in is on the product page there on the Airflow Music store. So that should be an easy way to find your way back to doing a different set if these ones aren't working for you. Anyway, let's get into playing exercise 2, largely slurred all the way through until the repeat of the scale, which I'm tonguing. And yeah, 96 beats a minute. Let's crack into it. Let's try that one again. Generally, I was going pretty well on this one until the end there, when I discovered that getting cleanly through the F sharp major at that tempo is a little bit on the edge for me. I need to practice that some more. So a false start there, it got away from me a little bit. It was better, although still not quite as good as I want it to be, when I repeated it. So that's what I'm going to continue to work on, and I think we can probably guess that there'll be another iteration of this week at some point, so we can do just that. But anyway, how are you finding these exercises? How's the tempo on that one for you? We're getting into a challenging territory, particularly keeping the tonguing moving, particularly by the end of these things, when some of the keys may be less familiar, and also when we've done a lot of kind of fastish single tonguing. After a few minutes, that can become more challenging. So how are you making out with these? I'm interested to hear. Please do let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, that's what I have for you in this one. If you have enjoyed playing along with the exercise, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll be back with another one of these very soon, and until then, I think you know what to do. Go practice.